This is The Whole Truth, brought to you by the Greenville County Democratic Party. From local city councils and school boards to the South Carolina legislature and the nation, we provide a clear-eyed view of the whole truth surrounding the decisions, the policies, and the politics that have a direct impact on your family, your neighbors, and you. The Greenville County and the South Carolina Democratic Party have made incredible strides in recruiting extraordinary candidates for elected offices across South Carolina. In many instances, we even have primary election contests between multiple Democratic candidates from which you can choose. Because of this, we decided to interview as many of these candidates as we are able in order to have you be well informed as you vote in the June 9th primary elections.
Welcome to another episode of the Whole Truth podcast, brought to you by the Greenville County Democratic Party. I'm your host, 3rd Vice Chair Charles Morris, and I am joined today by our special guest, Justin Sanders, running for House District 24.
Hey.
Against incumbent Bruce Bannister. There's also a primary coming up. How are you, Justin?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I appreciate you joining us. You've been peeking over at my questions, haven't you?
Well, I just see the titles and
I'm just kidding.
Read the questions.
One thing I saw on your website, you've advocated for creating, as you put it very simply, more purple districts.
That's right.
So what's the first step? Why do we need to do that? How does that help the people?
Oh, man. Great question. Love it. Thank you. So first step is building consensus. What does that mean, or what do I mean by that? So government is biased to the organized, right? So how do you get a law passed? You have to have 50% plus one majority of the votes. So you have to build a consensus within the legislature, within the House, within the Senate, and then hopefully, with enough pressure, then the governor would sign it. So what does it look like? It looks like a bipartisan. It has to be a bipartisan committee. That right now it's like an independent commission, but obviously we have gerrymandering in the state. They've been challenged. Yeah, so it's been taken to the courts, and of course our courts are partisan as well. And throughout the lawsuits. So it starts with building the consensus and creating a bipartisan commission that redistricts, right? So most people understand what gerrymandering is, but that's the colloquialism. That's what we don't want. If the Democrats take over redistricting, they will gerrymander for their benefit. If the Republicans...
We see this nationwide currently, right?
Right. Virginia did it.
The other night.
Yeah, California did it. Texas did it.
Republicans started it.
Trump asked for it, right?
Correct.
He
directly asked Texas for it.
He directly asked for it. Now, in this time, in this current day, that's what, fighting fire with fire, 100% okay with that. But for the long-term health of our society, we want purple districts. And what that brings is a marketplace of ideas in politics. So instead of – and if you can think about it, like I think about it, when you have polarization that we have now, that is what gives rise to that term identity politics. I can't talk to you because you're a Republican, the proverbial you.
Right, tribalism.
Correct, and you can't talk to me because I am who I am. It's like my mother. She is a Republican. She is born and raised Bob Jones University, very religious. I think that is what she has told herself as the reason why she's Republican, right?
Okay.
And so
that's the identity.
That's the identity part of it, and that's what it started in the 70s with Nixon, strengthened with Reagan and the silent majority. Right, so the Republicans have been playing this slow game for a long time to
Southern strategy.
Right, the Southern strategy to marry Christianity with the Republican ticket, and that has allowed for this continued slow movement towards identity politics. And as I constantly think about it, I try and find the root causes, and I want to dismantle those. And what you can't, it's not about taking religion out of politics, because we have like one of the highest religious-based populations outside of the Middle East in the world. So what we have to do is attack it secularly, which is redistricting laws, and then people can start understanding how politics is supposed to work. It's like, okay, these ideas are what I want, not the personality, not the sycophancy that we're getting today, where Trump is everything to the Republican Party, or Bruce Bannister is everything to the Republican leadership in the state, right? So that is what I've identified as the culprit for the continuation of the problem. It might not have started the problem. The Republicans have done a good job, unfortunately, to our detriment, of creating this system, of creating identity politics and running on it and using moral outrage. And not in my backyard. You're not going to have a male turned female playing sports. It's nonsense. That's freedom. That's choice. If it works out, then it works out.
Well, let me ask you this. So, completely removing gerrymandering in South Carolina, that's a big step.
Oh, it's huge.
You've talked a lot about small steps to lead to big changes. So, say you get elected. Mm-hmm. What is your policy priority when you get to Columbia?
Well, so I like looking at Bruce Bannister's successes as an idea of what we need to do for our successes. And his main issues as a bill sponsor, has been lowering income taxes, okay. Right? So what does that do if about the way tax is structured? It's because the income tax is a progressive tax system. When you lower the taxes, you're really lowering the percentage amount that the wealthiest are paying into the system. And then that offset has to come from somewhere, and it's usually from other taxes or fees and other, let's say, property. They're trying to lower property taxes currently too, which feeds directly into education.
But that revenue still has to come from somewhere.
That revenue has to come from somewhere. We have a $14 billion a year budget that is doubled with federal funds as well. So it's about $30 billion is what we spend yearly. And that's not going to change. Look at Republican governance now. Like they're $1.5 trillion for military spending, and that's nationally. But the idea is it's the same in the state too. They might say, the Republicans might say they want to lower your taxes, but it's to lower the taxes on the wealthy and then to put that percentage disproportionately on the middle and lower classes.
To shift that burden. Shift
the burden, exactly. Mm-hmm. Right, because they have this broken ideology that that the wealthy are the best of us. And it's not. They're just the first movers that get lucky, or they, they just, it is. And, and speaking of the luck, and I think it's very important that I say this because it's about reframing the conversation, and it needs to be said. Like the Democratic platform, and if you've heard me speak, you've heard this before, is like 90-something pages long, and it starts off with a land acknowledgement saying, hey, look, this land came from the Native Americans, the 1500s, the Europeans got here, and the Spaniards got here, and they eradicated and started pushing the natives off the land, and then blah, blah, blah. Time has moved on, and now the United States of America exists on, quote-unquote, stolen land. Mm-hmm. I can't begrudge United States of America for existing, right? But it is...
Well, not now, certainly.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Not now. It's not like we should have, guilt over it. It's just we should acknowledge it. And I like that, land acknowledgement, right? We acknowledge the fact that the history has happened.
Just because we acknowledge something doesn't mean we all expect everybody to sit around and just apologize.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so I want to acknowledge that I'm a white man in America. Mm-hmm. I think that's horrendous, the implication of it. Like I'm disproportionately lucky based on birth, based on race and birth. Like if I was a Indian from India, Southeast Asia, poor Indian from Southeast Asia, would I have the opportunity that I have currently as a white man in America? No, absolutely not. Did I do anything to deserve this? No. I was born to two people that I had never met before. Right?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, so I just
go know each other.
Right. So
I fateful day.
I benefited just on luck alone. And what does that mean for me? It means that there's a responsibility. It's a responsibility, and that's what I have learned in my life with the military, with being a middle school teacher, with volunteering with organizations like Big Brother and Meals on Wheels, and driving Uber to make ends meet. Well, I don't really make ends meet. I'm able to survive well enough.
I think it's important that you said that, Justin. I'm going to give you credit for that because that is directly to your point. Just by acknowledging your privilege, because what you just stated was privilege, that doesn't mean anybody expects you to apologize for it. I'm a minority. I don't expect you to apologize for it, but I do appreciate that you acknowledge it and acknowledge the responsibility that comes with it.
I speak with my girlfriend all the time. She's German. She currently lives in Germany. And she's opened my eyes to feminism and the struggles of women in the society. And I think that we talk about that all the time in the sense that how do you make the change? How do you encourage change? And it's just by talking about it. It's just by expressing it in front of people. So if a guy says a sexist joke, don't laugh at it, right? You stop laughing at it. Even if you're like,
or say, hey man, that's not cool.
Yeah, even better is to say, hey man, that's not cool. It's it's like, and then what do? You are opening yourself up to ridicule. Oh, what are you, some feminist, right? You know how the bro code is, right? Exactly, and it's right. The manosphere, right? Like that new manosphere documentary on Netflix really exposes like the toxicity of it all. So the only way to fight back from that toxicity and just the history that humans have created and is objectively behind us. I mean, we can't know everything, but we can know the trends, and seeing the trends, acknowledging the trends, and learning from them and moving forward is the only way possible. And so you have to acknowledge it. I think it's incumbent on everybody, every politician moving forward to acknowledge their privilege, to see it as a responsibility, because otherwise, we can lose ourselves. We can lose ourselves real easy, especially if a campaign starts going and getting momentum and stuff like that. You don't ever want to feel like like I deserve this. We don't, we can earn things. We don't ever deserve anything.
So you talked earlier about bipartisanship with the redistricting, right? There's a lot of Democrats who listen to or watch this podcast, and some Republicans too, who are rolling their eyes at just the word bipartisan.
Right. Well, South Carolina.
We have an extremely fractured and polarized political atmosphere nationwide, statewide, even locally. Really, especially in state houses across the country. And South Carolina might be ground zero. So when you get to Columbia, what does bipartisanship actually look like? How do you plan on actually achieving meaningful conversations with Republicans?
That's a great question, too. Well, with Republicans, you just talk to them. You cannot shut the door on them. I mean, you need them. In South Carolina, you need them to get the legislation. You need to get some of them on board, always. And there will be some that are more moderate than others. Obviously, hardliners are hardliners. Identifying the hardliners, and then There are strategies and tactics that can be used, namely, how do representatives and senators get into office? Through voters, right? So how do you talk to Republican voters? Talk radio. Talk radio. Run ads on talk radio.
The James show or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to get on. You don't have to go to the shows, but you can buy advertisement space.
I don't mean to advertise that man's show. Sorry.
No. Yeah, don't do that. No. All of them are so much.
Steve and I have a show where we dive into that. But anyway.
Yeah, but so there are tactics and procedures. So right now, I'm really hoping because of Trump's horrendous administration and his ineptitude, his inability to govern coherently, and Mike Johnson's just theocratic nonsense that he just his sycophancy to Trump.
U.S. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, just to clarify.
Yeah, that they are creating a perfect storm for Democrats in states like South Carolina, meaning that Republicans are going to be disillusioned and not want to vote, leaving a gap open that's wide enough for, if we do our job correctly and get out the vote, get people to the polls, we can get knock on those doors every day. Volunteer. We need volunteers constantly. There's a good plug, sandershouse24.com, if you want to go and contribute time, effort, and money. But effort's what I really look for. And that's what we have to do so there's an opening, right? So there's an opening. So if we can send, right now we have 26% of the state legislature and 26%, funny enough, 26% of the Senate.
Super minority in both.
Right. So we need to, if we can increase that to 50, dare I say, because of Trump's horrible policies, then that's a moot point, right? Then we can pass anything, at least in a chamber. Depending on statewide, Democrats don't really do too well. We'll see how that
the governor is. But.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how that goes. If it's going to be the lieutenant governor or not, I don't know. But the idea is, the purple districts don't. It's not about punishing the Republicans. It's like, I'm not asking for blue gerrymandered districts. I want purple gerrymandered districts. If you can't get behind that as a legislator or as a senator in South Carolina, then you're opening yourself up to attack ads. It's like, oh, they just want this. So they, if you look at all Republican candidates, their pitches, it's always the same thing. William Timmons, the new, all the mail I get, it's like, I'm going to go down there and stop the corruption in South Carolina.
Are you getting their mail? No, I'm just kidding.
At the house. They get sent to the house. Yeah. Well, my mother gets it, so I see it at her house.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I've got
no, it's fine. It's fine.
So I get it.
Yeah. But it's always stopping the corruption. They own 75% of the legislature. How is there corruption? How is it not them? We're the corrupt ones. So, I think that
correct.
What's the saying? You give a man enough rope and he'll hang himself. So you have these this is true common sense legislation, and if they don't get on board with it, then they look like they're guilty, and they are guilty because they don't want that. They want to maintain power. It's always about maintaining power for the elites. The elites of South Carolina. They might not be the super billionaire class nationally or in California and stuff like that, but we have a couple billionaires here in South Carolina, and we have very wealthy elites here in South Carolina, and they like it the way the things were. I mean, South Carolina used to be one of the most elite places back in the revolutionary times and the times of slavery. We had the major elites here, but times have changed. Yeah, exactly. The planter class.
My last question for you.
Yep.
Real quick before we run out of time.
Yeah, we do, man. Time goes by fast.
I know, it flies by.
I just love talking about this stuff. I love having this ability.
You talked earlier about speaking to voters, being accountable to voters.
Mm-hmm.
What is your vision for District 24? And how will you remain accountable to the voters of District 24?
See, that's great too. So I've put a lot of thought into this. The pay for the legislator is $10,000 a year, right? Where does that money go?
$400.
Yeah. So where does that money go for Bannister, right? Probably goes in his pocket, whatever. He probably just buys signs for it's pocket change for him. Maybe not pocket change, but it's okay. Mm-hmm. I would use it to create a website that uses uses voter registration and addressing, and you have to sign in using your voter registration and address, create an account, with your voter registration and address if you're a voter in District 24. And with that, you have voting rights, right? So you can vote on upcoming legislation on the website. Of course, it means it's nothing but data allowing me and the future office, because it's not about me, right? It's about the office. I want to set up a system that outlives me, and that's really why I'm running, is to use these ideas that I have thought years and years about and have a lot of care put into them to outlive what I would, if I'm elected, outlive me in my terms. So that way, if there's a piece of legislation that District 24 cares about, and it's not and it's very partisan, right? So I'm a Democrat. I'm a progressive. That's how I consider myself. If there's a piece of legislation that District 24 cares about, and it's conservative legislation, and they go out there and get out the vote, and they go onto the website and say, "Oh, we got overwhelming," not even overwhelming. Let's say 50% plus one. Mm-hmm. We got about 43,000 constituents. If you get about 21,501 votes for that piece of legislation, I want to vote for it. I want to vote in the affirmative for it, because that puts the responsibility. I'm here to represent the will of the people, so the people have to have a will, right? Otherwise, I'm a trustee like a senator should be. I want to be a delegate. Tell me how you want me to vote, and I'll do it. I'll do your bidding. Let me do your bidding. Let me show you what right looks like for a legislator. And that is how legislation. That's how the system is supposed to work between senators and legislators. Legislators are the will of the people. Senators are the stewards of politics or of the state. That they're the ones who have to what's best for the state and take care of the state as a society. As South Carolina, the society, the senators come together and argue, what do we think is best for the society? But the legislators are just like, hey, my constituents want this. I'm voting for it.
That's very interesting. Direct democracy.
Imagine that.
Maybe coming to South Carolina.
Well,
Justin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate you.
The Greenville County Democratic Party appreciates your time listening and watching the Whole Truth Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. While you're there, please follow us, like or subscribe to this channel to help us spread the word. The GCDP wants to thank Michael Fishman from Day Moon Productions for furnishing the recording studio as well as providing his time recording and editing. The Democratic Party needs you to get actively involved and join us at future events. You can find out about them at multiple locations like the GCDP website, greenvilledemocrats.com, and browse the events calendar. You can also keep up with us through our social media presence on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Threads. Look for @GVLDem. Thanks again for listening. Let's get out there and do what we can to rebuild our government into one that serves us all. Thanks.